We're diving deep into a book that will fundamentally change the way you think about every choice you make. It is called Thinking in Bets by Annie Duke. But first, let's do a quick mental exercise. You don't have to say it out loud. Just think about it for a second. What was the single best decision you made last year? And what was the worst, the one you regret the most? I am willing to bet that the first thing that popped into your head was an outcome. Maybe you switched jobs and got a 30% raise. Wow, what a great decision. Or maybe you invested in a fund that tanked. Oh, what a terrible decision. And you might be thinking, well, duh. How else are you supposed to judge a decision, if not by the result? By how long I agonized over it. If that is your mindset, you are not alone. In fact, it is completely normal. The author, Annie Duke, says she has asked this question to hundreds, even thousands of people, from college grads to C-suite executives, and nearly 90% of them automatically use the outcome to judge. But here is where Duke drops a bombshell, backed by years of high-stakes experience. That way of thinking is dead wrong. See, Duke isn't just some academic in an ivory tower. She is a world champion professional poker player. Anyone who has played poker knows that in the short term, winning and losing is all about luck. You could have an amazing hand, but your opponent might hit a miracle card on the river, and they win because of the quality of their decisions. Later, when she became a business consultant, advising executives on multi-million-dollar deals, she saw the same problem everywhere. Some people got rich off a lucky break, convinced themselves they were geniuses, and then doubled down on a reckless strategy. Others followed a brilliant process, did everything right, but got hit with bad luck. They lost money, blamed themselves, and became too scared to ever take a smart risk again. What does this remind you of? It is like judging a student based only on their final exam score. The kid who got an A might have just guessed well on a few key questions. The one who got a C might have studied for weeks but felt sick on exam day. If we only look at the score to decide who studied hard, we're missing. And yet, when it comes to the biggest decisions in our own lives, we make this exact mistake over and over again. Duke wrote this book to pull us out of what she calls the resulting trap. She boils it all down to one powerful idea. Your life is the sum of two things: the quality of your decisions and luck. You can't control luck. You can't control if your boss is in a bad mood, or if a new technology disrupts your entire industry. The only thing you can ever truly control is your dag. You can't guarantee a good outcome, but you can decide whether you thought through all the possibilities, whether you consulted with people who know more than you, and whether you honestly checked your own biases before making a choice. And to kick things off, we're going to expose the most insidious of those biases. Why are we all Monday morning quarterbacks? And why do we struggle to see that for every outcome that happened, a dozen others could have? Once we understand these mental traps, we can finally start begging truly. Part 1. The 3 most destructive cognitive biases. Let's start with a scenario we've all seen. Imagine you have a friend who last year agonized for months about whether to quit his job and start a business. He finally took the leap. The result: the company folded in less than 6 months. Now all he says is, "I knew." But let's flip the script. What if his startup had been a wild success and he made a fortune? He'd be telling everyone, "I knew it was the right move all along. You have to trust your gut." See what happened there? The decision-making process was identical in both scenarios. The only thing that changed was the outcome, and it completely rewrote his evaluation of the decision itself. This isn't just his problem. It is a universal human glitch. Annie Duke calls these cognitive bias traps, and they are the #1 reason we fail to learn from our own experiences. Today, we're going to dismantle the 3 most dangerous ones. 1. Resulting. Judging a book by its cover price, he might still be thinking, but what else is there to look at? The whole point of making a decision is to get a good result. Duke uses her experience at the poker table to show us why this is so dangerous. She would often be in a situation where she had a fantastic hand and, based on probabilities, made the optimal bet. But then, an opponent would get incredibly lucky, draw a miracle card, and win the pot. If she let that single loss convince her that her strategy was wrong, she would stop making the correct plays in the future. And in the long run, that would guarantee she'd go broke. This happens all the time in real life. Someone randomly buys a meme stock, it skyrockets, and they think they're an investment prodigy. They pour their life savings into the next hot tip and lose everything. Someone else meticulously researches the market and invests in a solid company, then, and next how they conclude, see, research is useless, and give up on rational analysis forever. Duke maps this out brilliantly in a simple quadrant. Good decision plus good luck equals a deserved success. Good decision plus bad luck equals an unlucky, but still good. Process bad decision plus good luck equals dumb luck. Don't get decision. If we only judge our decisions based on a single outcome, we can never tell the difference between skill and pure dumb luck. 2. Hindsight bias. The I knew it all along trap. We've all done this. After something happens, we convince ourselves we saw it coming a mile away. Duke gives a brutal example, the 2016 US presidential election. Before the election, nearly every pollster, pundit, and media outlet predicted a Hillary Clinton victory. Pundits flooded the airwaves saying, "I knew she would lose. She ignored the Rust Belt voters," or "her speeches just didn't connect with people." But Duke did her homework. She went back and looked at the analysis before the election. Almost no one was highlighting those as fatal flaws. In fact, some analysts had called Trump's campaigning in the Rust Belt a total waste of time. This, I knew it all along, effect is everywhere. You check the weather app, it says sunny, so you leave your umbrella at home. Halfway through the day, it starts pouring. You grumble, "I knew I should have brought it." You can never trust the forecast. But if it had stayed sunny, you would have thought. The truth is, you didn't know. After the outcome is revealed, our brains quietly edit our memories, deleting the parts that don't fit the final story. The reason this bias is so dangerous is that it destroys our ability to learn. If we think we already knew the right answer, then there is nothing to reflect on. Why review my process? I already had it figured out. But in reality, we learned absolutely nothing from the experience. 3. The inevitability trap. Blinders to other possibilities. We tend to believe that what happened was the only thing that could have happened. We forget that every decision sits at the base of a branching tree of possibilities. Duke calls this treating the outcome as inevitable. For example, someone whose startup fails might spend all their time thinking, "If only I hadn't chosen this idea," or "If only I hadn't hired that person." As if changing one thing would have guaranteed success. But in reality, a decision is a fork in the road. Just because the path you took led to a ditch doesn't mean the other path was a superhighway to paradise. It could have led to an even bigger ditch. There is a great example in the book of an entrepreneur whose pet social media app failed. He was crushed, concluding that the idea was just fundamentally flawed. Duke helped him reframe it by exploring the other possible outcomes he was ignoring. What if the app never became a huge hit, but it built a small, loyal community and was eventually acquired by a larger company? What if, through building the app, he met his future compounder? What if the experience simply taught him invaluable lessons about the pet industry, paving the way for his next, better-informed venture, because he was laser-focused on the single outcome of total failure? He was blind to all the potential value he had created. And if you can't see the value, you can't learn from it. Part 2. Building a bulletproof decision-making process. Okay, so we know about the mental traps. How do we actually avoid them and learn from our experiences? This is where we get practical. Annie Duke argues that decision-making is essentially an act of forecasting the future. You are not just choosing between job A and job B. You are choosing between the entire set of potential futures that comes with job A versus the set of potential futures that comes with job B. Therefore, a good decision-making process is simply about mapping out the possible outcomes, figuring out which outcomes you prefer, what matters most to you, estimating the probability of each outcome, comparing your options, and making a calculated bet. Duke offers a 6-step framework. But let's break down the core principles. First, clarify what you actually want. Many of us make simple pro-con lists. Duke argues this tool is deeply flawed. Why? Because it just gives you 2 buckets, good and bad, without measuring the magnitude of that good or bad. For example, putting long hours in the con column is useless. Does that mean working an extra hour every day? Or does it mean sleeping at the office? Those 2 cons are not in the same league. A truly great decision must be tied to your personal goals. If your primary goal is to save a down payment in the next 3 years, then a higher salary should probably weigh more heavily than a shorter commute. If your primary goal is to be more present for your family, then a job that lets you leave at 5 p.m., there is no such thing as a universally good choice, only a choice that gets you closer to your goals. Second, don't be afraid to guess the odds. The moment you mention estimating probability, most people's eyes glaze over. I am not a mathematician. How am I supposed to know the future? Duke's advice is liberating. You don't need to be precise. A thoughtful guess is infinitely better than no guess at all. She calls this the archer's mindset. You don't have to hit the bullseye every time. But the act of aiming in the right direction is far more effective than just flinging arrows randy. For example, you don't know the exact weight of a wild buffalo, but you know it is heavier than a person and lighter than a truck. That range is a useful starting point. Here are 2 simple tools to help. Use possibility words as a bridge. Translate vague feelings into rough numbers. For example, very likely could mean a 70 to 90% chance, while a rare chance might mean less than 5%. Take the shock test. If you estimate a 20% chance of something happening, ask yourself, if it happened, would I be shocked? If the answer is no, your estimate is probably in a reasonable ballpark. Third, get an outside view. To escape your own bubble, we are all notoriously bad at evaluating our own situations. You can see with perfect clarity why your friend keeps dating the wrong people. But when it comes to your own love life, you are completely blind. Duke breaks this down into 2 perspectives. The inside view, based on your personal feelings and experiences. I feel like this is a great idea. I've been driving for 20 years without an accident. I am a better driver than most people. The outside view, based on the data shows that 90% of drivers believe they are above average, which is statistically impossible. How do you get this crucial outside view? Find the base rate. Thinking of opening a restaurant. First, Google the failure rate. The data says around 60% of new restaurants fail within the first year. That is your starting point. Use an opinion tracker. Ask yourself, Part 3. Fast decisions versus slow decisions. You might be thinking, this is great, but if I run this whole process for every single choice, I'll never get anything done. Do I really need to estimate probabilities for what to have for lunch? Excellent question. Not all decisions deserve the same amount of time. Duke did the math. The average person spends 250 to 275 hours per year on small, low-impact decisions like what to eat, what to wear, and what to watch. That is the equivalent of nearly 7 full work. Meanwhile, the truly life-altering decisions often get made impulsively. So, the first step is to separate the small stuff from the big stuff. Low-impact decisions. The outcome has a negligible effect on your long-term life, e.g., what to eat for lunch, which movie to watch. High-impact decisions. The outcome will significantly shape, e.g., quitting your job. The test is simple. 1 year from now, will I still remember this decision? Will it still be affecting my happiness? If the answer is no, it is a low-impact decision. Make it fast and don't look back. Tricks to speed up small decisions. Embrace repetition. It is just lunch. You can have something else tomorrow. Don't waste 10 minutes debating it today. Use the happy to be wrong principle for anything with a low cost of failure. Like trying a new flavor of coffee. Just do it. The risk is minimal. For high-impact decisions, however, you need to slow down. More importantly, you need to fight the urge to only think about the best-case scenario and proactively plan for failure. Duke calls this building a guardrail for your decisions. 2 powerful tools for this. 1. Promotum. Here is how it works. First, clearly define your goal. E.g., successfully launch our new project within 6 months. Next, imagine it is 6 months from now, and the project has been a complete and utter now. Right, diesel. G. We didn't do enough market research. Our funding dried up. Then write down 5 reasons outside your control. E.g., a competitor launched first. A key team member quit. With this list of potential disasters, you can now build a plan to prevent them or mitigate this. 2. The Ulysses Pact. Imagine there is a little devil on your shoulder whose only goal is to make your plans fail. He won't tell you to do something obviously stupid. Instead, he'll whisper seemingly reasonable excuses that lead you astray. If you are trying to lose weight, he'll say, "You had a hard day, you deserve one." Or, "It is a celebration, it doesn't count today." If you are starting a business, he won't say, "Bet your entire life savings." He'll say, "You need to be all in. Quit your job now to show you are serious." The only way to beat this voice is to make rules for your future self in advance. This is called a Ulysses Pact. Like when Ulysses tied himself to the mast of his ship so he couldn't be lured by the siren song, dieting. I will not eat any sweets after 8 p.m. No exceptions. Startup, I will work on this as a side project for 3 months until I have consistent revenue. Only then will I consider quitting my job. Part 4. How to get feedback that doesn't suck. Even with the best process, we all have blind spots. That is why we need feedback. The problem: most of the feedback we get is useless. You ask a friend, "Should I quit my job?" And they say, "I don't know. Whatever makes you happy." You ask your team, "What do you think fair?" Only for you to discover a dozen fatal flaws after you launch. Duke points out that most bad feedback isn't because people are trying to be unhelpful. It is because the way we ask for it quietly contaminates the result. In a classic psychology experiment, Solomon Asch showed people a line and asked them to match its length to one of 3 other lines. The answer was, but when he planted actors in the room, who all deliberately chose the wrong answer, 36.8% of the real subjects caved to peer pressure and gave the wrong answer too, even when they knew it was wrong. This happens in every meeting. If the boss says, "I think this is a great plan," almost everyone else will fall in line. This contaminated feedback is worse than no feedback at all. So how do you get clean, useful insights? Duke recommends 3 feedback hygiene habits. 1. Listen first, speak last, never lead the witness. Don't start by saying, "I am thinking of starting a bubble tea shop. It seems like a great idea. What do you think?" Instead, ask a neutral question first. If you were going to start a business right now, what industries seem like they have the lowest risk? If someone were to open a bubble tea shop, what are the biggest pitfalls they should watch out for? 2. For group decisions, go solo before you go social. To avoid groupthink, ask for opinions individually before you bring everyone together. For example, after a job interview, have each interviewer write down their thoughts and a rating privately. Then bring everyone to discuss it out. 3. Use a checklist, not a vague question. Don't ask, "So, what do you think of my decision?" That is too broad. Instead, present the key variables and ask for specific input. "Hey, I am trying to decide on this job offer. Can you be case had he paid he?" It is a startup, so there is a faster path to promotion, but it is also less stable. Commute is an hour longer each way. What risks or factors do you think I might be underestimating here? When you give people concrete information to react to, they can cue targeted wow summary and action plan. All right, let's bring it all home, from escaping the resulting trap and dodging cognitive biases to building a robust decision process and getting clean feedback. Annie Duke's core message is this: a good decision is not defined by a good outcome. A good decision, we can't control luck, but we can control whether we thought clearly, whether we sought out different perspectives, and whether we were honest about our own biases. That process is our single greatest weapon against the uncertainty of life. To wrap up, here are 3 simple actions you can start taking today. The 5-minute pre-decision check before your next significant decision. Write down 2 sentences. Here is the information I know for sure. Here is the information I don't know but need to find out. This helps you spot your own blood. Run a mini premortem for a big decision like a career change or a major investment. Ask yourself, if this fails 1 year from now, what are the 3 most likely reasons? What can I do right now to prepare for or prevent those failures? This helps you plan for the worst-case scenario. Practice the bite your tongue rule. The next time you ask for someone's opinion, force yourself to stay completely silent. Let them finish their entire thought before you share your own. This protects their feedback from your influence. We will all make thousands of decisions in our lifetime. No one can get them all right. But if you commit to a reliable process, even when you stumble because of bad luck, you will always end up in a better place than someone who just wings it and hopes for the best. Because life isn't a single hand of poker, it is a marathon. And the real winners are the ones who learn to use a controllable process to navigate uncontrollable luck. Congratulations. You've just absorbed the core wisdom of another incredible book.